Hello, and welcome to the iBailey webinar on exploring NetSuite SuiteAnalytics, KPIs, and scorecards. My name is Dino Farfante, Director of Business Development at iBailey. Today, we're going to talk about enhancing your dashboards and reporting metrics by utilizing key performance indicators, KPIs, KPI scorecards, and SuiteAnalytics Workbooks. Here's what we'll be reviewing today. First, we'll introduce our team on the phone and give you an introduction to iBailey and who we are. Then we'll introduce you to the tools and features within NetSuite to enhance your reporting needs. These tools are designed to bring you real-time access to data within NetSuite's platform. With quick access to relevant data, you'll be able to make strategic and tactical decisions in a proactive and informal way. Finally, we'll wrap up and take questions and talk about next steps. So let's get started. Again, I'm Dino Farfante, Director of Business Development at iBailey. I've been working with NetSuite for over 12 years, from both a practical business owner standpoint, as well as running the practice at iBailey. As the Director of Consulting Practices, I have industry experience in multiple ERP systems, ranging from mid-market to enterprise. On the phone with me, I have Kim Hitchcock, who will be walking us through the enhanced reporting tools and features. Kim is an experienced NetSuite implementer and solutions engineer. She's certified in several NetSuite applications and has over 10 years of experience, including NetSuite, SAP, and Microsoft. At iBailey, we like to think of ourselves as advisors first and technology providers second. We only succeed when our clients succeed. And that's why our driving force every day is to help you find the best way forward. We bring our knowledge, passion, and experience to transform the way you do business and deliver lasting results. iBailey has been around for over 100 years and is a top 20 CPA firm. But iBailey is more than an accounting firm. We're an award-winning consulting, business advisory, and professional services firm. We are driven to help our clients take on the now and the next with inspired ideas, solutions, and results. Our teams have experience that span multiple industries using a proven services approach that focuses on business processes and user adoption. Our practice also specializes in complementary technologies like Salesforce, CRM, analytics, integration, and advisory services. Our NetSuite team provides services to clients across the United States. We have successfully implemented over 500 companies and boast an award-winning team. We have over 55 consultants holding over 100 certifications with an average of 10 years plus experience. Our team has earned America's Solution Provider of the Year award 4 out of the last 5 years. This is an award based as much on customer experience and success as it is in strong and growing NetSuite practice. If you have any questions on who iBailey is, or if you're interested in other services, please contact your client success manager. Correct and well-time analytics are the basis of important business decisions. With the right metrics, businesses can be confident that the choices they make to grow are sustained and accurate. Better yet, when used properly, analytics enables businesses to recognize patterns that can predict and work toward the best possible outcomes. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, please put them in the Q&A section of the Zoom meeting, and at the end of the presentation, we'll answer all questions. Here's the demonstration topics Kim will be presenting today. Standard and custom KPIs, standard and custom KPI scorecards, creating a SuiteAnalytics workbook, and adding the chart to the dashboard. If you have any questions on the features not in the presentation today, again, your client success manager will be available. Now let me turn it over to Kim for the presentation. Kim?
Thanks, Dino. One of the main themes we hear when we're talking to our customers and prospects about selecting a new ERP or optimizing their existing one is reporting, the need to see data at a real-time basis. Today, we're going to be discussing how you can utilize NetSuite advanced reporting tools to enhance your users' dashboards, as well as these advanced analytic tools to bring real-time data into your dashboards to be able to better drive business decisions. First, we're going to do a quick review of the NetSuite dashboards. Dashboards provide users with easy and efficient real-time data in centralized locations. Custom dashboards can be developed for specific roles within a company and published to employees who have access to the specific role. Therefore, you're standardizing reporting throughout your organization. As you can see in this example that I have on the screen, there's 3 different dashboards here. And although they have the same look and feel, they do have content that is available to each of the users' relevant job. In the case I have a CFO, a controller, and an AR analyst. On the controller side, you're looking at more high-level information. On the AR analyst, you're looking at more detailed information. So you're able to personalize these dashboards to provide users with the most relevant information pertaining to their job function or business area to get them real-time data to make business decisions. Now let's dive into NetSuite and start walking through a little bit of the personalizations of a dashboard and creating a custom KPI. So in here, I'm just going to go over a couple highlighted things just to show you how you can personalize your dashboard. As I mentioned, that dashboards are going to be bringing you visual data so that you can see what data you need to operate in your role. Dashboards can be published to roles, but also allow users to personalize the content for their individual preference. And then lastly, your dashboard is going to be dynamic, so it's going to display in portlets and provide you direct access to the raw data behind to drive KPIs, trend graphs, and chart-based workbooks for reporting needs. So in here, I'm just going to go over a couple areas. The first one I want to talk through is just layout. NetSuite has the ability for you to change the layout of your screen here, and this is more for individuals that are going to be working on different monitor size. So if I'm working on a large monitor like I have, I'm going to want a three-column layout to be able to take advantage of the larger screen. However, if I'm working on a laptop, I'm going to want to have the information here on a 2-column based on the smaller screen that I might be utilizing. I can bring more data onto my dashboard by easily clicking on the personalized screen here and bringing in other content. I'm going to go into more detail on this as I bring in analytic workbooks and KPIs, but for right here, I'm just going to go ahead and add a KPI meter. I can also see, suite apps that I might have available to me. And if I'm curious as to what I'm actually already using on my dashboard, I'm able to go to the currently used, and it's going to show me all of the different portlets that are already existing on my dashboard for me. As you saw when I clicked on KPI meter, it easily just brought it onto my dashboard. You can use the drag and drop feature to move things around on your dashboard for ease of use. But I also want to just kind of dive into some of the details here on your KPI indicators. So a KPI indicator, this is going to be a portlet, and it's designed to utilize the raw data in the system and consolidate data into critical business metrics. So in this case, you can see I have orders, case closed, and I'm able to see things by different periods. I can see what my current was for this period, so this year, as well as my last year, which is 18. I can see if I'm trending up or if I'm trending down or if I have a net no change. I can also use this piece here, which is a trend graph, to provide me with information that's going to pop it out as a trend graph. And I can also take this information and download the images if I need to present something into a presentation for a board member. I can easily set up new KPI indicators. So in here, I have the ability to set up standard KPIs as well as custom KPIs. I have the ability to change the ranges in what I'm looking at. And then I also have the ability to have different thresholds or goals. So I can see where my KPIs are measuring up against the goals that I have here. Now I can easily come in here and add a standard KPI. NetSuite, depending on which edition you have, has about 75 standard KPIs that you can select from. And as I come in here, I can easily just click on, let's say, payables, add a payables to my KPI dashboard here. And it's going to come in at the bottom and it's going to show me today versus same day last month. I can then set up a threshold if I want to. So maybe I want my payables to be at, $20,000. I can easily put that as a threshold. I can also use this headline, and what this headline is going to do is provide me additional information at the top as a higher look into the data that I'm wanting to see what's going on with it. And then I can easily change the range from here to show the different ranges. I can move everything around by easily just dragging and dropping, and I can easily just reorder things using my buttons here at the top. So at this point, now that I've added a standard one, I'm going to go ahead and save it. And as you can see, my portlet is going to go ahead and refresh. I can easily refresh the screen up here by using my browser refresh, or I can refresh an individual portlet, or I can even refresh an individual KPI if I'd like to. So as you saw here, I now have my KPI meters available to me. I added my payables, and I can see where my payables is trending up and down. One nice feature that I wanted to show you is, if you can see here, I have the total periods available to me, and you can see what range they are, and they're all kind of in different ranges. I can use this function up here, and I can set my dashboard to automatically change the ranges for everything if I want to see it. So I can say I want to look at everything as of this year versus last year, save it, and it's going to go ahead and refresh everything. And now you can see this is all changed to be my period of this year versus last year, and I'm able to see it. So this is a good way to kind of look at data in a view without having to go in and modify each individual data element. And again, I can come back up here and I can change it back to either my default settings, or I can change it into another period if I wanted to do this month versus last month. Next, we're going to go in and talk about how we could create a custom KPI. On the custom KPIs, I'm able to go ahead and measure different things. So as you can see here, I have orders. Maybe this isn't going to be detailed enough for me, and I might want to see orders by region. So what I would need to do here is create a custom KPI that would be able to break down orders into different regions. And the way that we do that is by setting up a saved search. Now, there's a couple different ways you can get to save searches. You can go through your list and come into Save Search New here. You could even come into Reports and come through Save Searches here. What I like to do is have Save Searches set up on my new bar. So it's set up as my first result here, Save Search. I can open it in a new tab, and it's going to go ahead and give me that Save Search screen. Now, because I'm going to be looking at orders, I'm going to need to look at transaction types. So I'm going to build out a transaction saved search, which is going to give me the ability to see different types of regions. So in this one, I'm going to do a type called sales order. So I can filter in my types by the different transaction types that I'd like to view. So let me just find type here. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and do sales orders. So now what I'm going to be doing is filtering it out, saying I only want to see sales orders in my search. I only want to see status of billed. So I only want sales orders that have already been billed. So I can go ahead and find that. Let me pull it down to sales orders here. So I want to say sales orders that are billed. So right now, all I'm doing is building out what I want this KPI to be pulling data from. And then my next one, since I want to see it by region, I'm actually going to bring in a subsidiary, and I only want to see it as my US West subsidiary. So I want to see a KPI that says how many orders from a US West perspective, that's the region I want to look at, can I bring into this for my KPI. Now, a KPI is really just going to be giving me a result. So I don't need all of these different fields on here because I'm looking to measure something. So what I want to do is see an average of my amounts of the orders. So I'm going to go ahead and do a simple remove all, which is going to remove all of these fields that NetSuite tries to be friendly with and give me thinking this is what I want to look at. So if I remove all, then all I want to do is bring in amount. And the reason why I'm bringing in amount is because I want to see how much sales am I doing in a specific region. Now, the most important part here is when I'm building a KPI, I have to be able to quantify it. So in this case, I need to be able to tell the system what I want to do. So in this particular example, I'm going to say average. So I want to see the average sales amount for all of my sales orders that have been billed in my US West region. At this point, I'm able to go ahead and have my quantitative data brought onto my dashboard. However, I need to do one more piece in order for a KPI to work properly, and that's to be able to put in a date filter. Now, you won't put a date filter up here because you're not really telling the system on the criteria what date ranges you want to use. You're going to use your filters, and what this is going to do is tell the system what date to use for measuring those comparisons. So if I say on here, I want to see when my date created was, and add it, this is now going to tell the system on my date ranges here what date field to use to measure this comparison. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. So average of US West orders. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it. Now, once I've got this saved, I now have the ability to take this data, refresh my screen really quick so that the KPI exists. And now I can come in here and use this button, the Add Custom KPIs button, and bring in the KPI that I just built out. So if I come down here to average, or I can search one of the two, it's going to bring me, here's the two. I already created one previous to this webinar. So here's the other one. So now I can bring both of these onto my dashboard as KPI metrics. I can then bring them up further if I'd like to, so they're closer to my orders. So let's just drag them up here and move them here. Now, one thing to note here is if you can, I know my screen's a little bit small, but there's a little C with a circle here. This is going to denote that this is a custom KPI. So anytime you're looking in your KPI metrics, you can see which ones are custom automatically by this little circled C here. The system's already telling you it's a custom KPI that was built. Now, I can also then change what my ranges is going to be. I can say if I already know what my goal is going to be that I'm going to measure against, I can also have that here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and change this from this year, comparing it to last year, just so I can get a better area of data. And I'll do the same thing here for this one. This year, compare it to last year. Oh, there we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and save it. It's going to bring it onto my dashboard for me. And now you can see I have two different new KPIs that are the custom KPIs I just built. So now I can see my total orders this year compared to last year, as well as breaking it down by a specific region. I can then also use this data in my KPI meters. So as you can see, I have the numeric value of information here, but I can also see it in a visual area as well. So if I wanted to go ahead and bring US East orders here, I can then set that up. And I can even go into my KPI meter and change a little bit of the data here if I wanted to look at it a little bit differently, or if I wanted to give it a goal. And let's say my goal was 40,000. And then I can save it here, and you can see that my KPI meter changes as I'm reaching my goal or if I've exceeded my goal here. So the next area we're going to look into is your KPI scorecard. So again, NetSuite has KPI scorecards, and they come out of box. There's quite a few of them that you can choose from based on the different user roles and permissions that you have. We can also create custom KPIs. So in this KPI setup here, I can come in here and I can choose from one of the pre-selected ones that NetSuite has for me. And what it's going to do is give me different information that I'm going to be able to look at. It's going to provide data that's going to be more of a complex comparison of multiple KPIs over multiple different date ranges. So what I'm going to do here is move over to my customization screen, go to centers and tabs, and as you can see here, I have KPIs. I can then create a new KPI, or I can customize one of the existing ones. One of the recommendations I always like to give is if you can start with something that's already there, you should probably customize one of the ones that exist, but NetSuite does give you the ability to create something from net new if you needed to. So for this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and go into this one that is called Financials, and I'm going to start customizing it. On the first tab, you're going to see that the KPIs that you want to include in your KPI scorecard. So in this case, I have bank balance, revenue. I can either remove something in here or I can add to it. So for here, I want to do another bank balance KPI. But what I want to do is I want to compare my bank balance against my credit card balance to see where I am at between my spend versus my cash. Now, I can also compare it with previous. What this allows me to do is say if I had to move this up, let's say, and I wanted to compare it with my previous bank balance, I could easily click this box and then change this to credit card balance, and then it's going to go ahead and already do that for me. So I have a couple different ways I can use this data. So for this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and unclick that, bring it back the way that it was so I can see it. Now I can also have a comparison type. So whether I want to do an absolute, which is what I want to do, which is really just going to take KPI A and subtract it from KPI B and give me the net difference in absolute value. But I can also do it as a ratio or a sum or even a percent. I can also invert the comparison. So if I wanted things to be shown in a different variable, I could easily do that. I can build formulas like you can see here. So if I wanted to look at a currency formula, in this case, I'm looking at revenue minus COGS and calling it gross margin. So I'm able to build out specific formulas to bring onto my dashboard as well as a KPI. My next area here, this is really going to allow me to say what types of date ranges I'm looking at and be able to start setting those date ranges for each of my KPIs. So as you can see here, these are all numbered. These numberings match up with these numberings, so you can see what's actually going to be changing based on the different KPIs and what date ranges they'll be using. If I was bringing in any kind of custom KPIs, I could easily bring that in here. So I can call this, for example, my average orders west and my average orders east. Let's just actually I'll do this one. So we'll just change this over to average orders east. So I'm able to bring in both of these new KPIs that I created, and then I can bring them onto my dashboard portion here by calling it custom KPI 2 and custom KPI 3. Now these are going to be in here as 2 and 3 because that's where I put them in here. I actually put them as 1 and 2, so let me change that one. KPI 1 and KPI 2. So your custom KPIs here will match with what your custom KPIs are here. And then highlighting, this is really just going to show, as I'm looking at the data, let's go back to my dashboard, I can highlight different rows, which would be kind of bolding the information if they met a certain threshold, or if I wanted to just change the data to say, okay, based on a goal or based on a particular, if they're over then a certain amount, or even just kind of change the text color of something if I wanted to. So if I wanted to say, let's say my average orders, which is my KPI, I want to always bold it, I can set that up. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a name. So we're going to call this Financials for Webinar 1. And now I can save it. So what I'm going to be able to do here is as I go back to my dashboard and refresh it, I will have a new KPI to choose from that's going to then add in the additional pieces that I added, which is my bank balance credit card comparison, as well as my 2 new KPIs that I already created to be able to see that information on my dashboard. Now, like I said, you can create one from scratch if you needed to by easily just coming into the Create New And really, it's just going to give you a blank screen to start from. You go ahead and use the name information, put in a description, and then start building out those KPIs that you want to add onto your scorecard. So let's come back into here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this KPI scorecard portlet, come into the setup, and then what it's going to do is allow me to see my new financials webinar, and I can go ahead and save it, and it's going to bring it onto my dashboard. So as you can see, this average of US West orders here is highlighted bold because I told it to always bold it regardless. So that's how you can use some of the data that's part of your KPI scorecards to bring it into a different grouping, and you can see, you know, more information that you would typically not see in a scorecard, or something that's more relevant to your industry or your business portion. Now, the last part of the presentation we're going to go over today is looking at analytics workbooks. So your analytics workbooks, you know, this is an area that allows you to continuously look at different analytics inside of NetSuite. So NetSuite over the last couple of releases has been putting some improving the features that are within here. So they're kind of rolling things out more and more with each release to really enhance the analytics workbooks themselves. What this is going to allow you to do is create highly customizable workbooks by combining data sets, pivot tables, and charts in a single tool. So this is a really robust tool set that you can use that's going to allow you to take single level records or multi-level joins, bring them into charts and graphs, and actually bring them back onto your dashboard to see that data in real time. The great thing about the SuiteAnalytics Workbook is that you don't have to have a robust understanding of the NetSuite record schema, and you don't have to know query language in order to create these workbooks. So it's really user-friendly, and that you'll be able to pull this data in pretty quickly. So we're going to go ahead and create a new workbook. I'm going to start by creating a workbook from one of the templates here that NetSuite already provides. Again, this is going to be a recommendation that if you can start with something that they've already kind of have put together for you, I would recommend that. It saves time, and they've already kind of spent, you know, their time putting together a lot of the data. So I'm going to start with the sales order, sales invoice workbook here. I'm going to go ahead and click it. What it's going to do is open up this information. The first thing I want to do is go ahead and open up the data set so I can actually see the data and start manipulating it into what I might need it to be. Now you can see up here, there's a couple different workbooks that's included in here. I don't need all of them. So while I'm opening up the data set, I will be saving it for just the information I want to use in my, my workbook. So this is really easy to use. The first thing that you need to understand is it's really drag and drop. So these are going to be everything that I have access to under this workbook template. So these are different record types and the different information that's within each record type. So if I expand out subsidiary here, you can see these are the subsidiary fields that I can choose from, and so on and so forth. So I can see the class fields, I can see my transaction fields, my transaction line item fields. Over here, these are going to be what's already included in this particular data set. So I can either start with what I have, or I can start removing some of the information that I might not need. And then up here at the top, these are going to be my filters. So right now I only have one filter, which is date. So I can go ahead and modify some of the filters for what I'm going to need. Now the workbook I'm going to create is going to go based off of the same things that I've been building on, which is my orders by region. So what I want to do here is bring in a couple different things. So I'm going to have my date range a little bit different. So I want to look at my date range by year, just because I am in development environment, so I don't always have the same data for everything. So I'm going to go with start of last fiscal year as my date range. So everything from last fiscal year forward is going to be included. The next thing I want to do is do a filter on transaction type. And I only want to include invoice. So as you can see, all I'm doing is dragging and dropping into these sections up here, and it's going down and refining my information for me already. So the next thing I want to do is bring in a subsidiary column. So I can say, you know, what I have from a subsidiary perspective. And in my data set, I don't know if I really care much because I filtered by invoice that I don't really need my transaction type. So I can easily hover over those 3 dots and remove that column. As well as items, I don't need that information. I don't need the location, the quantity. So I'm just cleaning it up a bit so that I'm really just focused on the data that I need to analyze. So what I'm going to be looking at here is my dates, my transaction, my different regions, which is subsidiary, my customer, and my amount. Because at the end of all of this, what I really want to see is a graph that shows me the amount spent over a period of time by each of the different regions. So the next thing I actually want to bring in here is my posting period, because I want to be a little bit more high level and say by period, what's my spend? What's my revenue by different subsidiaries? So once I have this information, I can go ahead and save it. I can give it a name and it's going to go ahead and save it for me. And this is just going to save it as a data set. So this will be a new data set that I'll be able to include in my workbook for bringing in chart information. So let me go ahead and save it. I'm going to give it a new one called invoices, and we'll call it webinar 1. And go ahead and save it. I could even put in a more detailed description of what this data set includes if I needed to here. So now I can go ahead and save it. And my data set has been saved. You can see up here in this green box, the system tells me my data set has been saved. Now from here, I can go ahead and apply it to a workbook if I want to, or I can go back out and go right to the analytics and create more. So I'm going to go ahead and go apply it to a workbook. Actually, I'm going to go back to my analytics tab here really quick. Let me close these out. All right, so now I'm coming into my data sets. I just want to show you, here's my data sets for webinar 1, so you can see that these data sets have been created. So again, now I'm going to go ahead and create that new workbook, and it's going to now show me, okay, here's the workbook. I can easily click on this, and again, I can open up that data set if I wanted to change anything. And then from here, I can determine what it is I want to do next. Which workbooks do I want to create? Do I want to create a table, a pivot chart, or do I want to create just a graphical representation of the data? So in this case, I want to create a graphical representation of the data. And what it's going to allow me to do is say, okay, here's all of the different columns that you included in your data set. And then here's the different layouts that you have. So you have your x-axis, the series itself. So what do you want to have? I would call that your y-axis. And then what are you measuring on? So in this case, I want to have it as my x-axis. I want to have as my posting period, because I want to see by posting period. This pop-up box is telling me every time I add something in here, I do need to refresh in order for it to show up on my chart. I'm just going to go ahead and say okay, because I'm not done building this out yet. So I will refresh it at the end. So on my amount, I'm going to add that as my measure, because I want to see how much revenue am I getting per period. And I want to break it out by subsidiary. When I do that, it's going to ask me if I want to see it as a child level view or a hierarchical view. So you do get the option to do that. I'm going to select child level view and apply it. So now I have this information here, and I'm ready to view it in a graphical representation to see what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that refresh. And now it's going to bring up the different graphical representation. So you can see down here at the bottom, here's all of my subsidiaries, and here's the the color code for each of the different subsidiaries. And you can see over on this side, here is the amounts. So it's going ahead and building it out by, here's the series that I'm looking at. I'm measuring it by amounts, and I'm looking at it by a posting period, which is right here down at the bottom. So I can see by posting periods, everything that I want to see. So from here, I could go ahead and give it a chart name. I can change out some of the properties. So let's go ahead and give it a chart name of invoices by region. So it has a nice name. And then from here, I could also change my column layouts to the different areas that I might want to look at it. Maybe it's a column stacked chart or a bar chart, even an area chart. A lot of these different things I can go ahead and choose from and change the different layouts if I will. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh it. It's going to give me my title change here. And then at this point, I feel like my information looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to give my workbook a name. So I'm going to go invoices by region as my name for webinar 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it. So now that I have my workbook saved here, my next step would be going back to my dashboard and adding this to my dashboard. So again, I would need to come into this personalized tab up here and then be able to bring in a new analytics workbook here. You can see I have 10 of them available to me. I'm going to go ahead and use one of them and set that up to bring in the workbook that I just created. So let me go ahead and find that. I can come in here and easily just say invoices, and it's going to refine it. Here's the one that I did, the invoices by region. I can choose the height of the portlet. I'm going to leave it at medium, but I could definitely do short and tall. And if I wanted to give it a custom name, I can easily do custom name as well. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. It takes a second for it to refresh. And then you can see that I have now added a analytics workbook onto my screen. So as the data is happening in the system, it will automatically update just like any other portlet with the details behind it. So you can see and hear all of the different analytics that I have. I can also change it on the fly here on my dashboard. If I wanted to look at it in a different way, I can definitely change the way that these are structured. So as you can see, NetSuite has a lot of built-in tools that are standard that's going to help you enhance your reporting and analytics needs and really provide you with a robust dashboard for each of the individual users. This concludes our demo for today. Dino, I'm going to pass the controls over to you to follow up.
Thank you, Kim. Let me reshare my screen and talk about next steps. So we appreciate your attendance today. Your journey with NetSuite continues to evolve for an implementation and optimization. And ideally, we have a number of services that will help you in that evolution and success, from managed services to support services. Please ask your client success manager about services that we can offer to help you. Now that concludes our demonstration. I'm going to turn it over to Amy Knust to lead any Q&A that's been presented through the presentation. Amy?
Thank you, Dino. We do have some questions that have been submitted, and the first one is, can we create custom KPIs over custom records?
Yes, you can create KPIs over custom records. You can also utilize custom records and fields in the SuiteAnalytics Workbooks.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question is, what if we don't have any of those default templates and data sets that you have displayed on screen? Is there a way to get them, or how do we gain access to those default templates that are in your environment?
That's a great question. That's an area that I would suggest that you reach out to your client success manager. They'll be able to help you work with NetSuite to get them installed into your accounts.
Okay. So in the standard KPIs and called orders, you selected headline, but there wasn't any visible change to the KPI dashboard. What does headline do?
Headline actually just takes a KPI that you want to bring to the forefront, and provides the information as a more of a title, if you will. It'll be another box that's displayed up there. So typically, if it's going to be part of that threshold or meet the criteria, it'll automatically display up at the header.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question here. Do the analytical pivot charts allow for drill down into the data?
Yes, it does.
Okay, wonderful. And the final question here is, how do I navigate the templates under analytics? I think it's a navigation question when you're inside the analytics engine.
So when you're in the analytics tab itself, there's two sub-tabs up there. One's workbooks and one's data set. Depending on what user permissions you have, obviously you'll only have access to the data that your permissions allow you to. But under workbooks, you should have some templated workbooks in there that you can navigate through. If you open each one, it will give you some details on the data that's behind it, the data set that's behind it.
I do have another question here. Is there a way to search in the global search bar for analytics workbooks that you've created? Is that an indexed searchable item?
I don't believe it is at this time.
Okay, and the last question is, what if we don't have those default templates in our account? Is there a way to get them installed?
There is. That's something that you'd have to reach out to NetSuite directly or through your CSM to get them installed.
Okay, and I think at this point, that is all the questions that we have. Thank you, Ken.
Again, thank you for attending today's presentation, and this concludes our webinar today.